gonna give a cue like this. Say, that'd be the kick drum, right? Bet, bet, bet. You did it. Just fall right into it, right? So I go, bet, 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 bet. Right into it. You got a suit to match that hat? Got a suit to match that hat? First is kick by itself. So we call this out at any given time, right? I say, can I get the shit? There, can I get the shit? That's the kick drum. All right, ready? Actually, you go. Oh, you'll hit 4. Yeah, hit the bass. No, yeah. Here we go. Now get the shit. You'll hit those notes. Yeah. Give me the shit! Alright, just let the kick do it by itself. The shit! That big one, huh? I ain't ready to sing. Keep hitting it. Little stingy one. That's on the bridge. You hit that. Sometimes I say, give me some popcorn, right? Sometimes I feel in need. Oh, another brother. Talking about egg leaves. Hey! Lord, no. Come blow your home. Don't want no trash. Don't want no trash. Where your hi-hat is on this part. There. There. On the three. Come on, Jelly Bean. Get the shit. What do I need? What do I need? No, the shit. The shit. What is it that I need? The shit. The other step there. Through the wall, the cat is back. Get the bug out my face. I swear it's flat. We gotta dance, keep it real loose. Talking about psychedelic goose.
And we welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Twitch Sports. My name is Seth Everett. Welcome to this beautiful channel. Look at all these lights. We're going to have a great show today. We're here for 90 minutes. Miller and Moulton take you after that on Twitch Sports, and I'm going to entertain. And if you're wondering what you're watching, I'm just going to say this. You're watching me dominate NBA 2K. That's all I'm going to say. You're watching me dominate. And when I dominate, you're just going to know I'm dominating. Busy day in sports. I got a couple of NFL guests, former NFL players. Mike Devito is going to join us at 4:20. And you guys all know Hugh Douglas, right? Hugh Douglas, former Eagle, former Jet. Hugh Douglas now doing radio in Atlanta. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour as well. So we've got Mike Devito at like 4:20 and Hugh Douglas at 4:50. In the meantime, I'm watching two chat rooms. So you can join me on the Seth Everett chat room. Just say hello. You can also check out all the other different things going on the channel. You can find out about my YouTube page, although really there's this on there. You can check out my Facebook stuff and my Twitter following, which hopefully now that the election is over, I will not lose followers because I'm not a political person. I'm right in the middle and I don't understand that. But we have a new president as well. So we can get into that as well. And there's also new COVID news. So there's a lot going on in the world of sports as well. You can also check out PayPal. You can support. You can subscribe to the channel. You see our latest followers and our latest subscribers. And I'd love to see that move. I'd love to see that grow because everyone who has come to the show, all they ask me to do is more shows. They want more and I'm giving them more. Juan says hello, and I'm saying hello to Juan. See how easy that is? You see how easy that is? We'll talk about all of that. There was some big news today in the world of COVID. And this happened really early in the morning. On Mondays and Tuesdays, I get up super early. And early in the morning, I got a text message. Somebody said, "Did you see what's happening with Pfizer?" And Pfizer is supposedly made great progress on a vaccine. Hey, a vaccine. We can all agree we all want a vaccine, right? All the people that were fighting all week during the election can all agree on one thing. We want a vaccine. And that's exactly what the doctor ordered. And what that does is it brings hope. And I just feel hope. That's what I felt in the last 3 days. I feel hope, like that we're coming out of the muck and mire, and we don't have to be so angry all the time. That's what I'm loving. And this idea that we can come into a sports year with so much uncertainty. The NFL has gotten through, this is the end of week 9, and it's, with scotch tape and mirrors, and they're just putting this together MacGyver style, trying to squeeze all these games in. And I give the NFL a ton of credit because they've kept all of their cases to a minimum. There hasn't been a team-wide disgusting outbreak. I thought it was weird. The LA Chargers are canceling practice when they had a case. The New York Giants aren't. The Chargers need the practice, I guess, but the Giants don't. Please, did you see the Giants against the Redskins yesterday? And there's all of that. There's all of that aspect to the whole thing. The questions, and if I ever look back, it's because that's where the Twitch Sports chat room is. It's not like I'm not looking at you. But the NFL's done a really great job. And I have confidence that we're going to see this the whole way through. But what it does, and I think that a vaccine, gives us all hope, is I think it affects the sports that aren't playing right now. I think the biggest thing that you find with word of a vaccine is college basketball, the NBA, the NHL, and then next summer, baseball. And baseball needs it. There was a great article today, and I can actually put the article in both chat rooms, and I'll do it in a second. There was a great article on Sportico. Have you guys seen this new website, Sportico? I know the guys behind it. They're fantastic. And Barry Bloom, who's been a guest on this show before, a longtime coworker, Barry Bloom wrote this article because he did an interview with the MLB Players Association where they said they've told their players, be ready to play all the spring training all of the regular season and be prepared. And Rob Manfred says, like, nothing close to that. Rob Manfred's like, we're drowning in $8 billion in debt, and I don't know what's going to happen. And so, literally, they're on opposite sides. You know, because why would anything be in America like this? And, you know, the one thing that you have to recognize, from at least from my perspective, is the sports leagues would love to be able to operate with buildings that are pretty full. And I don't know about you, and I'll ask this question to the chat room. How comfortable are you if, you know, before a vaccine, if your basketball team, your hockey team, your baseball team said, all right, stadium's open, are you running in and sitting and going? I'd be lukewarm about that. I would. And in the NFL, I have been a big proponent on, I think that there should be some fans. Because it can be done safely. And it's expensive, and it's not easy, but it can be done safely. And what I mean by that is the argument that has to be brought up is that these stadiums are so big that I am not sitting here like, you know, the state of Florida saying just fill the buildings and, you know, COVID be damned. That's not how this works. What I'm looking at is a little different. What I'm saying is these stadiums are so big, you can put 7,500 to 10,000 people in a stadium and everyone can have their own row. And if you have a family of 4 sitting all the way in the left, and then a family of 4 sitting in the next row, and then the family of 6 going in the row behind, and you just stagger it, and everybody's separated. I've been to an NFL game this year, and I've been to a baseball game this year. And it's the safest place. That's safer than a grocery store. Because if you do it right, there's order, you can put people in. And that's the best thing you can do. I think the NFL needs to do it more. And, you know, you're seeing spikes all over the place. I mean, in New Jersey, I'm embarrassed to be from New Jersey right now. You guys had it so good, and now you're screwing it up. And they're not going to do it. And the governor in New Jersey, at least, and I know we're worldwide, but the governor in New Jersey I think he just canceled fall sports, indoor sports, up to high school level. And that stinks. And I don't know. The whole thing is the problem with this. And so if the vaccine comes about, how confident will you be that you can head to the arena or the stadium to go see a game? And like I said, we have to put this in perspective. The earliest distribution it would come, the earliest we would get is late December. I don't think this impacts this NFL season. I don't think it impacts the Super Bowl. You're not going to put 80,000 people in the Super Bowl. But I do think it can help the NBA and the NHL. And, you know, the NBA seems to be very steadfast on December 22nd. They've got this date. They're sticking on this date. They're just saying this is the date that it has to be. And I don't understand that, but maybe they're changing. The NHL has been much more open-minded. I've reached out to the commissioner, Gary Bettman, for my podcast, Sports with Friends. Did I just plug my podcast? Did I plug a podcast? Yeah, I have a podcast, Sports with Friends. Comes out Wednesdays. And one of the things that I'm hopeful for is if you can show me that a vaccine works, it's going to go to older people first. It's going to go to frontline workers first. I mean, it's not going to baseball players or hockey players or basketball players. So that's not happening. It's definitely not going to college kids. So it's going to be something a little different when it comes to how we're going to treat this vaccine. So like I said, even in a perfect world, let's just say this vaccine's ready to go, we're all not getting it. The regular people are not getting it until the spring. And that's why when you've heard the NHL speak, they talk about February and March and doing an abbreviated season because of the Olympics. And it's not that the NHL plays in the Olympics, but NBC does, and that's their partner. And so they have to get done before all of that. The NBA is in a different situation, I guess. I don't know what the NBA is. I don't understand what the NBA is saying, except for the fact that all you're hearing is that the players and owners are agreeing on everything. And that's great. But let's let COVID dictate when the NBA comes, not the other way around. Not the other way around, at least. And so in the chat room, we're asking the question, are you going to a sporting event in real life? Yes, in real life, if a COVID vaccine becomes available, or will you want to wait a while longer? And the argument is, I don't know how many people are going to be taking the vaccine first. I don't think I'm going to be one of the first in line to do it, but I'm also not that high risk. I am considered high risk because I have asthma, but I'm not high risk in the sense like people twice my age. And so, we understand all that. And so from the NFL standpoint, it's almost like it's two sides of the pendulum. Because on one hand, I do believe there needs to be more fans in more stadiums. Because when you watch these games and you see the games that have the fans in them, I think there's a distinct difference. And I applaud the networks because I think they've diminished the fake crowd sound more. But I feel that. I have that vibe. I think there's that. The other argument that I have gotten from all of this, and we're going to get really in depth on Week 9 of the NFL when we talk to Mike Devito in 8 minutes. The idea, from my perspective, is that I just don't think that the other sports can just jumpstart, because I think they'd rather have an abbreviated season that has fans in the buildings, especially the basketball and the hockey. Baseball is different because it's outside. And baseball is very different. And you're not hearing about bubbles anymore. You're hearing about all the stadiums being in the arenas are opening up. And that's the whole argument. Caleb says, are you going to be on the defensive with your guest today? Oh, I see what you did there. Yes, we're going to be very defensive because Mike DeVito was a defense player and so was Hugh Douglas. So we got all defensive guys. I am a very prejudiced person. I put only defensive football players on. I didn't put any offensive people. That and Jay Feely didn't get back to me in time. And Chewy Sauce says, I'm just so over the fake crowd noise, vaccine me up. You guys all agree when you see a game, Faya says, I don't normally attend in person anyway. Then you're not the guy I'm asking. Just the idea that we can't... I hate the fake crowd sound. I've said that before. I just think it's awful. It's completely brutal. Fake crowd sound has done nothing for me, and I have been to stadiums where it's empty. I've seen simulated games. For example, when I was at MLB, we used to go to simulated games to watch people to do what's it called, like rehab starts and stuff. And the park has a feel, a vibe, a sound. And I've been in football stadiums when they're empty. I kind of dig it. It doesn't kill me, but when I'm watching a game at home, what I can tell is when there is just enough people that it's done safely, I'm all for it. I'm completely all for it. Seth, what are your thoughts about the AI crowd? The AI crowd, I do without it. I don't like simulated crowds. I don't like fake crowds. I don't like, because there's somebody pushing the button there, and it's not instant reaction. So like, there's a guy at a keyboard, right? There's a guy at the keyboard. So let's just pretend this is the fake crowd sound keyboard, and let's say he has, this button is cheer, and this button is boo, and this button is wow, and like he has to watch the game. So a guy makes a diving catch, and he goes, cheer wow, cheer wow. Okay, I'll go wow. And there's that second delay. And I hate it. You can tell it's fake. But when there's people, and I'm trying to think of an example where I've liked the crowd. Like Kansas City, I liked the crowd. I didn't like when they booed in the opening game, but I've liked that crowd. There's been a bunch of people that I've digged, that I've totally digged. In the meantime, Mike DeVito is going to come on in about 5 minutes from now. So we'll tell you one more chance, if you can. you see this show, you see how gorgeous these lights are, you're more than welcome to hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. But what I'd also say is follow this channel, because on this channel you can see, oops, there's that's a mistake. We put that in there. That is wrong right there. We'll fix it. But this idea that, one of the things that you have with regard to all of this is, if you look at the argument that, we have found for sports, I'm trying to change this video here. That's a mistake. That shouldn't have been there. Is I just get the sense that you can fill the stadium up. You can totally fill the stadium up. And I think a small amount of people can be spread out. I was at Yankee Stadium. I've told this story before. I was at Yankee Stadium, and there was not somebody for like 20 feet from me. I was all by myself. There was nobody there. And I walked out of the press box just to see what it was like. And it's so weird. And the empty stadiums are so weird. And you saw in the World Series how much of a difference that could be. So I don't know. I think there's something. Sausage Water says the Premier League does the fake noise best. And I've watched Premier League, and I didn't notice anything special about their crowd sound, but maybe that's possible. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I've talked to people in England, and there was something in England that I heard just the other day. They're in a national lockdown. But schools are happening. And we talked to a kid in school. One of my relatives lives out in England, and they're going without masks. So, I don't know. Everybody's got a different theory on this thing. Everybody seems to be the experts. Everybody seems to know. And I don't know what to tell you. But this whole argument of, could a vaccine change everything? And you notice the stock market, no, I don't usually talk about the stock market. The stock market has skyrocketed. It's reached all-time highs today. The stock market's high because I think a new president and the potential of a vaccine, and I think everybody's there. And that's the best part about this. And I just think that when it all comes down, I get it. Chewy Sauce says, lock it all down, everyone gets 2 months off. Listen, if you didn't have the possibilities of a vaccine and the idea that I don't think there'd be some states that listen, I don't know that you could do a national shutdown. I don't know that you could do it. Which league does the fake crowd noise the best? Patriots fan says NFL and EPL all day. I don't know. I've seen Premier League games, but I haven't seen it enough to say, oh, I noticed the fake crowd sound. It's one of those weird things that I can't... I just don't, I don't understand the idea. I don't understand who came up with this idea that you could do this and all of a sudden everybody would just be fine with it and nobody would notice the difference. I mean, who are you fooling? Anyway, our guest today played for both the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a defensive end, played from 2007 to 2012, and he is on the screen with us now. Please welcome my friend, Mike Devito. He's also a proud papa. His wife had a new baby. How's it going, man? You getting any rest?
Oh, Seth, adjusting to 3 kids, man. I don't know what I was thinking over here, brother. Yes, get very minimal rest going on right now.
I can imagine, and it's got to be scary with all the stuff that's going on. You're up in Maine, and I always said I didn't know COVID came to Maine, but it's come alive and well, and so much for that respite.
That's one of the beauties about living up here, though, Seth, is everybody's so separated anyway that really it's been pretty much business as usual with masks on. I mean, people are so spread apart and quiet, and it gets cold and in 2 days it'll be minus 30 degrees outside, so nobody's going outside anyway. So we're pretty safe, and as long as we're staying smart, we're safe up here.
And we can start with a team that you follow pretty closely, your old team, the Jets. They play the Patriots tonight in Monday Night Football, and it was so funny because the NFL did such a great job with the Thursday night game. This has got to be a clunker. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have no expectations. I'm expecting a big Patriots blowout. However, the line is 9.5, and I couldn't pull the trigger. I got really, really nervous. What's your thought? Do you think the Jets could hold them close?
I don't know. These are two teams. I mean, the Jets, this is just typical Jets. I mean, watching this team every week, it gets so frustrating, especially growing up a Jets fan and, spending a good part of my career in New York. You want so much good for the team, and yet every year they just seem to blow it. And it's just one disaster after another. After bad GM to bad coach to not a good quarterback to not having I just don't know what's going on over there. They just can't seem to right the ship. And they've had so many years to do it. And so, I agree with you, though. I would have to say New England. I know going into this game, it doesn't matter what the record is. These two teams hate each other so much that, for both these teams, this is, and it's funny to say, given that this is New England. Normally, you're talking about them being one of the top teams, but this is really a Super Bowl for both these teams. Obviously, New England needs this to stay in any kind of, playoff talk, which is already getting more and more less likely. But for the Jets, beating New England is the Super Bowl. I mean, when I was in New York, if we went 2-14, but the 2 wins were against New England, we were, that was a good season. That was a pretty quality season. And so I know the Jets are going to come out fired up and want to win this game. They just don't have the talent to do it with the injuries and everything that's going on over there. They just don't have the talent to beat them. So.
A couple of things on New England. Cam Newton came out great. Then he got nicked up a little bit. And I think people are asking Cam Newton to be two things. They want him to be this master field general, and they want his mobility. And I don't know that you can get both. And the talk was, at least in week 1, was that Bill Belichick was going to change the system to accommodate Cam Newton. But I think what that does is that sets Cam Newton up to be hurt. And that's always been the fear of quarterbacks who run. I mean, you see how the Chiefs, they tell Mahomes to slide all the time. Like they don't want to get him nicked up like Cam Newton does, even when he was at the prime of his career. What's your thought on Cam Newton and the Patriots? And let's try not to bring Tom Brady into the conversation because he's got his own issues over there in Tampa. But what about the Patriots with Cam Newton?
Yeah, I mean, I get, like you said, they started off hot, and I know myself personally thinking, here we go. Belichick can just do it with anybody behind center. But I think the one thing you talk about getting nicked up, Cam Newton getting nicked up, and it talks about momentum and sort of being able to stay on course. And when you get a little bit derailed like that and lose a couple games, a team can really fall behind the 8 ball. I mean, it could just be a matter of momentum and just that thought of, oh no, here we go again. Those L's start to really snowball fast. And so New England could be in their own head a little bit as well. But you're right. I think with Cam, that's always the danger when you have mobile quarterbacks is having them rely too much on their feet. And when Cam Newton was in Carolina, he had Khalil as the center. This is a really smart guy. That's your field commander right there. He had a veteran offensive line in front of him that could make the calls, make the checks. Now he doesn't really have that. And so you're right, he has to play both those roles, and that's not his gig. So he doesn't have, he may not have that experience on the line to help him make the calls and make the checks and get everything set. So it forces them to have to be more one-dimensional with how they use him, and that's when those injuries come. I mean, you think about Mahomes last year when he hurt his knee, or was that last year too? Yeah, last year when he hurt his knee. I mean, it's just a nightmare when you lose a guy like that. And that same thing happened to Cam a couple of weeks ago, getting injured and then everything getting out of flux. And so I agree with you. I think you need to have him sit back there, make the passes, get the run game going. The run game, that takes pressure off of every quarterback. When you can run the football, get it going downhill, get the screen game going, get some stuff going to give him confidence, slow down the defensive line, use the hard counts, things like that. You got to throw those kind of wrinkles in to help him so that he doesn't have to just worry about running all the time.
That's interesting. There's another part of this whole thing with regard to Belichick, and that is, when he comes out and he has had so many losses. I mean, there were so many guys that opted out before the season even started. He's had injuries on top of that. And then there's this casual thought, and I'll ask you a very ignorant question, and I'll ask it in a really awkward way. Is Bill Belichick nothing without Tom Brady because he's only 2-5? Surely there's more to it than that, but the reality of everything is you know how people are looking at the Patriots and going, isn't it funny Tom Brady leaves and now they're 2-5?
Yeah, and I appreciate Bill Belichick's honesty last week when he said, look, we sold out. We sold out for the past 5 years. We won 3 championships, went to 4 Super Bowls, won 3 Super Bowls, and went to a championship. I mean, I think that's right. I think Belichick knows better than anybody that at the end of the day, you can design all the fancy plays and you can have the large playbook and you could be perfect with running the clock and time management and all that stuff. At the end of the day, the guys on the field got to play. I mean, you can have the best coaches in the world. If you don't have the players, it ain't going to matter. If you don't have a Tom Brady that you can win all those games in the fourth quarter, that can be consistent, that can not turn the ball over, that can be a leader on that team and in that locker room, that's just a massive thing to overcome for any organization. And then you talked about all the players that opted out, all the injuries. I mean, this is a lot better team, I think, if you have those. I really believe if you have those players back, especially some of those mainstays on defense, right? A lot of the heart of that defense is out. And you have some of those injuries that have affected them on offense. I think Cam Newton has more to work with, and you have a more consistent defense. And so I think Bill Belichick is a product of what he said, which is they sold out, so they didn't have the money to bring in all these free agents. But it's also the injuries and things like that, and then maybe not having some of that leadership, some of that hole that Tom Brady leaves, all of that combined. But I don't think it takes away from how great of a coach Bill Belichick is either, because at the end of the day, I've been on a lot of teams, and you've seen a lot of teams that have, the opposite end of the spectrum where you have a roster full of Pro Bowlers, and, you got a team going 2-14. One example, in 2013, when I went to the Chiefs, when I went to Kansas City, in 2012, they had like 9 guys go to the Pro Bowl, and they went 2-14. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a mixture of really a mixture of both. And then when you get the best coach that's ever coached the game with the best quarterback that's ever played the game, you just
get this max.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Let's do a big picture thing. We're about to finish week 9. We've had some scheduling snafus and some rescheduling. We had a Tuesday night game. We've had some Monday night doubleheaders, but for the most part, we're 9 weeks in and everybody's played 9 games, or unless you've had a bye week. What do you make of the NFL so far? And then the news today about a potential vaccine. What does that make you think of in terms of sports? And do you think it could be administered to have an impact on this part of the season? Yeah, I mean,
so your second point, you get a vaccine that works. I mean, and it goes, is ready to go.
I love the exclamation, that works.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and I think everybody knows, because they recognize that you got to try to get this thing out as fast as you can. So you wonder how much they're toting the line with is how effective it is versus, listen, we need to get something out there to help people. And so they're going as fast as they can. But if you get a vaccine that works, that changes the game for everything. I mean, that gets us back as a society back to as close to business as usual that we can be. And so I would think it would be a major thing for sports and just for society in general. But for football, I think the NFL has done a really good job. I mean, I think they didn't do the bubble thing, right? They didn't do the thing the NBA did. So you still had the risk factors in traveling. You got guys on planes. You got all that stuff. And you've had setbacks. You've had the Titan stuff. You've had guys come down with COVID. But I was just I'm talking to some of my buddies who are playing who actually got COVID, and they weren't even allowed in the facility. Actually, they didn't get COVID. They had family members that got COVID, and they weren't even allowed in the facility for 2 or 3 weeks. So the NFL is doing a great job keeping guys separated, testing guys constantly. And you knew the NFL was going to go ahead with the season. I mean, the NFL would play a game in an earthquake with a hurricane going on and lava flowing around the stadium. They're going to play the game. I mean, the NFL ain't canceling any game. Preseason, regular season, they ain't canceling it. And so you knew they were going to go ahead. It was a matter of, can they do it effectively? And I think by and large, they've been able to do that with just some little hiccups. So I'm pretty impressed with what they've done.
Do you get the sense? I was always of the belief that the NFL should build an extra week or maybe even 2 before the playoffs and just push the Super Bowl back. And, we're in this world of all this vitriol, right? So I'm trying to stay as not offend anybody. But just this idea, if you came out and made an announcement, and I would have done it at the beginning of the season, hey, we're going to get a Super Bowl. It's just going to be 2 weeks after you were originally planned, but it's going to happen and it's going to be played. I don't think people would really be mad about that. I don't know. And I would have done it to give yourself a buffer so that if you have cancellations now, because listen, Mike, everywhere but Maine, there's spikes everywhere. Yeah. And this idea that you don't know, and I don't want to see games get compromised, nor do I want to see the season to not work. I want it to be done right. And I don't know. I just think the NFL needed some kind of a buffer zone to give me a chance so that if in week 11 2 games get canceled, don't worry, they can play in week 18 and 19.
Yeah, Seth, I'm totally with you. And let me just ask you a question back. Do you think the reason they didn't do that was TV scheduling?
No.
Because I'm with you. And it seems obvious that you would do something like that. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Arrogance. I think it was COVID be damned. I believe that's what I believe. I think it was COVID be damned, and they were just doing it, and too bad.
Because that's an easy thing to do. I mean, what it takes some logistics on the team's parts. Maybe they have to move some hotels around, move stuff around like that. But you can get that done, especially if it means keeping guys safe. And I know that as a fan, geez, the more football, the better. I mean, stretch it out. The longer the season, the better for us. And it gives the guys, if COVID aside, I mean, guys would love an extra bye week. To get the body back, especially the guys going in the playoffs, get the legs under you.
The Denver Broncos, 3 weeks ago? The Denver Broncos prepped for a whole week, and then the game got canceled, and they said, oh, sorry, guys, that's your bye. So on your bye week, you practiced 6 times. I'm sorry, they got screwed.
So as a player, especially in the NFL, that would be the most difficult thing for me this season. Because and so many guys are like this. Everything's the routine. When the season gets going and training camps get started and then you get into the regular season, your routine is crucial. I mean, it's vital. And when the routine gets thrown off even a little bit, it used to jack me up something awful. And a lot of guys were like that. I could not imagine training all week, getting to Saturday, and then them saying game is canceled, and that was your bye week. You have to play. I would be my anxiety would be through the roof. Said I couldn't handle that. I have a lot of respect for the players and the coaches for what they're doing. With the way the schedule is all over the place and how within a day your game can get changed. That's mentally that NFL players just aren't built for that. You're just not used to that. Everything runs on time. Right? We used to get the hotel at 3:17, and then you're in your room by 4:10.
That was a joke.
Everything's like that.
And nobody made a big deal about that because the Broncos are not good, and that it's wrong. It was definitely wrong. Andrew has the line so far of the show, and for some reason my feature chat is not working. But I wanted to put this on the screen. He says Governor DeSantis would like to have a word with you, Seth, face to face. And I read an article because, and I'm not getting super political, but I've said it before on the show, I'm very in the middle. And I'd love to see the Republican Party put up a challenger that is honorable and trustworthy and presidential, and let me see that guy and let me hear what he has to say. I'm not conceding to the Democrats. And again, I voted for Biden, but I understand the Republican Party. I don't want the demise of the Republican Party. So I read this article, and it was like the 4 top candidates for Republicans in 24, and Governor DeSantis was the first guy. And I have said on this show, Governor DeSantis is like a member of the Legion of Doom from the Super Friends. He literally could sit in a chair next to the Riddler and Solomon Grundy and listen to orders from Lex freaking Luthor. This guy, I can't get over the Florida governor. He scares me to death with everything that he says. And again, I'm not taking a side. He's a lunatic, and I don't get it. And it's so funny to me when you talk about sports and how sports are, handling all of this. And that's where college comes in. And I wanted to ask you about college because college football has had much different results. They've had 25 guys on a team get caught. They've had get caught. They've tested positive. I'm not saying how they got it.
Yeah.
They've canceled all kinds of games. University of Washington was supposed to have their season opener and they didn't. And the Pac-12 has gotten impacted. The Big Ten's been impacted. All these teams are impacted. And the reaction to it literally depends on what state you're in. Because if you're in the Southeast, it's like, oh, well, shucks, we got to make sure we get it all in. And I'm like, wait a minute, you have 25 sick guys. And now I'm reading that the LSU Alabama is in jeopardy. And it's just like, oh, my God, everything is different. Whatever school you're in, everything is different. And I'm mad at Syracuse because not only are they playing every week, they're playing awful every week. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. Oh man, so many places to go. Yeah, just talking college in general, not so much where the colleges are at or how they're reacting to it, but just being a college student compared to an NFL player. As an NFL guy, most of the guys are married, they have kids. When you get done with work, it's home. You know what I mean? A lot of 80% of locker rooms going home to their family. In college, that's just not the case. You know what I mean? You're thinking of everybody's getting together. I mean, I can't tell you how many times right after practice, you'd be at a house with 85, football players. I mean, just that's the college experience. And, the kids aren't going to, at least I know personally, I would have had a tough time saying, oh, COVID, let me not, we're not going to go party. Especially during football season. So even though that's the correct thing to do, they're college kids. I mean, it's just not how they think. So I'm not surprised that it's been worse at the college level. It's on the organizations, it's on those administrations to do their best to really continue to drive home, like, hey guys, listen, this is really a serious deal. And these games being in jeopardy, that's what'll do it. That's what'll motivate these kids to say, okay, we really need to be careful, right? Because you can't have 25 guys getting tested positive for COVID. Like that means you're doing something wrong. And so when you start missing games, that's what'll motivate guys to say, all right, we got to get this right,
Yeah, the report is, Ed Orgeron, who, he called it a fluid situation. He said he has a number of guys, and as of Monday morning, the game against Alabama was still on. Because Ed Orgeron is the same guy who over the summer said, COVID be damned, it's our unenviable right to play college football, and you can't deny these guys. According to SEC protocol, anyone who tests positive for COVID-19 must quarantine for at least 10 days, unless you're a Heisman Trophy candidate, and then it's only 4. Anyone deemed to be a high-risk contact must quarantine for 14 days. Did anybody notice the sarcasm there? If LSU is unable to play Alabama, though, the Tigers will have already gone through their open date, and they rescheduled their game against Florida for December 12th, so they literally could not make it up. And that goes back to my NFL point, is what happens if it's week 14 and you have a game canceled? And to say you're going to have a game canceled, I don't think you're saying cancel the sport. It's one game. Yeah. Right. One game.
It's, what it is, Seth, there's no blueprint for this. There's no like this is how we should do it. And so everybody, I think, is kind of making adjusting on the fly. And so you would hope that you would wish there'd be more preparation. I mean, what you said made perfect sense. And I remember talking about it to guys prior to the season, right? Just adding the extra week as a buffer towards the end. It's just a smart move to do. So yeah, I mean, I really don't have much to say. You just kind of pray and hope that isn't the case, that isn't, but now we're getting into cold and flu season. We're getting into the time where this stuff transmits more and you see more kinds of the cold and flu type symptoms coming up. And so you just pray that this doesn't go down that way.
The other one I wanted to get your thought on, Notre Dame. And first of all, it was a brilliant game, and they beat, they upset Clemson, and everybody was mad because of Saturday Night Live. and it was funny because everybody wanted to see Saturday Night Live. They wanted to see Dave Chappelle. They wanted to see Jim Carrey, and they wanted to see Alec Baldwin as Trump. And everybody was rating, and that game keeps going on. Mike Tirico, who is a Syracuse guy, my dad, he was awesome. He was just like, we know you want to watch Saturday Night Live, but we're here in South Bend. Yeah. And, they're doing it. And then they win the game, and then the fans go nuts, and they rush the field.
Yeah.
We're in a pandemic here. So what am I supposed to do? Notre Dame issued a statement. They were like, mandatory COVID testing for students, strict penalties for those who didn't comply, blah, 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 blah. So am I the buzzkill? Talk to me through that. Am I the buzzkill? Can I just not shut up and just enjoy this amazing college football moment? Or am I thinking, who's going to get sick out of that?
No, I totally agree with you. And you wonder what the logistics looked like to get all, because you see the pictures, like the aerial photos of the stadium after the game, right? And everybody's down there like, what? How do you how do you do a mandatory test for all those people? How do you figure out the logistics of this? And it's just scary because, I've had close friends lose family members because of COVID, right? You know that this isn't a joke. So it might not affect a college campus, right? You have a lot of these kids that are obviously the majority of the student body is within the age range where they're not susceptible, or at least to get seriously sick from this stuff. But the fact that they can spread it to other people and how this has incredibly serious effects for people over certain ages and who are immune compromised and all that stuff. It's just, again, I know, and I try to put myself there because as a college kid, I probably wouldn't have cared either. But you just have to try to drill it home to these kids. Like, listen, we get it. You just won this big game. And how about everybody talks about every year about how Notre Dame, they get to stack their own schedule and then they play in the championship games and they end up losing because they played better teams. They finally beat a good team, right? You finally beat Clemson. So I understand the excitement. I understand why everybody's fired up, but oh my goodness, people just need to be more thought out, more careful with this stuff because it really, my agent, Buddy Baker, who I'm really close with, lost both of his parents to COVID. And I have other, obviously more stories. And so it's just, people need to recognize this isn't a joke,
No, and I'm sorry to hear that. That's kind of the point. Last thing on college football, Trevor Lawrence, who had COVID, he is close to getting back to practice. He says he's feeling better, and Clemson is off this week, so they say he's expected to return to practice, and he's going to leave his options open. The rumor is that he's not undecided about his future because he knows the New York Jets beckon or he thinks the New York Jets will beckon if he becomes the number one pick in the draft. You're Trevor Lawrence. You've already had a deal with COVID. He's a junior. What are you telling this kid? If you're a friend, if the guy on the other side of this Zoom call is Trevor Lawrence and we're not on in front of hundreds of people here, what would you tell Trevor Lawrence? What would you advise him?
That's a good question. Jeez. That is a great question. How would I advise him? Playing quarterback in New York is got to be the hardest position in the NFL. Quarterback's the hardest position. Playing quarterback in New York market makes it amplified by 100. It's so difficult to play there. You have one bad pass and you have, a stadium of 90,000 people all over you. And I love that about New York. That's one of the things I love about New York. But it's not an easy place to play. And, you saw how difficult it was for Sanchez. You saw how difficult it is for Darnold. You need somebody who's mentally tough, and not that Lawrence isn't that. But yeah, if I were him, so he's considering not going back to play. Is that what you're saying?
He's considering coming back for his senior year.
Oh, okay.
And not going to the draft.
No. I'm sorry. I mistook what you said. I thought he was thinking of waiting it out until the end of the season.
Look, I would tell him to do that too. How many games are left? What is it? 3 games left?
That's what I would do.
I don't know about that, but that's
that I'd be more inclined to do. I think you've got to go for the money. I hope that doesn't sound I don't want to sound like that guy, but that's just the truth. If I'm getting drafted number one and my first choice is the Jets, I'm not going to go back and play my senior year to avoid getting drafted.
But do you say I won't report there?
No. I mean, no. I think you have to go. I think if the Jets draft you, you got to take it and make the best of it. You got to hope that they bring in the coach and the GM and the organization that you need. I mean, I know that New York has a bad, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to go out there and play on Sunday. You can't risk going back and getting hurt. The last thing you want to do is go back to avoid the Jets and get hurt, and now you're lucky if you get drafted in the 6th round. I mean, that's just not – you don't want to roll those dice. I don't think, Seth. I could be wrong. Okay. I'm open to have my mind changed.
All right. Well, Mike, we really appreciate the time, bud. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, congrats. You have a new baby in the house, and the baby did not cry, so thank the kid. Kid's already my favorite of your 3 children, so that's wonderful.
Me too, brother.
It's great to see you, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
It's awesome to see you. Thank you so much, brother. Talk to you soon.
You got it. I'll talk to you soon. You got it. That is Mike Devito. We're going to go from one side of the offensive line and to the other side of the offensive line and welcome in former Eagle, former Jet, former Jaguar, now a broadcaster at 680, the fan down in Atlanta. Let's welcome in our friend, and he's been on this Twitch channel before, my man, the great Hugh Douglas, who cannot hear me yet because he's connecting to the audio, and we're good, and now we've got to ask him to unmute. And once he unmutes, he's going to say hello to us, and we're going to have Hugh Douglas on the show. Hugh! Think he can hear me? Yeah, Andrew says in the chat room, he says, agree with Mike, look at Matt Leinert's experience. That's so funny. You just got to hit the mute button. Unmute.
Unmute.
There you go. He's there.
You're like, I act like this is my first rodeo.
I know, right? You've done this before. You've been on this show before.
Yeah, I have. So what's going on, man?
How are you, buddy? Good to see you. First of all, how's everybody?
Everybody's good. Everybody's COVID-free. So far, so good. Right. Everything's good. Not complaining.
That's great. Are you surprised? I kind of piggyback off a conversation we just had. Are you surprised that at this point through week 9 that every team's played their allotted games and that the schedule has only been altered minimally?
Not really, because I kind of figured once the NFL started that they were just going to sprint through this. I mean, when you talk about all the positive COVID tests and you talk about how they shut down certain facilities and still had to play, I think the only team that was really affected by that was the Tennessee Titans, where they had like 12 days off or 21 days or something like that. And everybody else, they just play. They just, the guys don't play and they just keep it moving like the San Francisco 49ers last week.
Yeah, I mean, you said Tennessee. I said Denver. Denver got screwed. They had that whole week of practice, and then they had their game canceled, and then they said, oh, sorry, by the way, that's your bye week now. And so they never got a break.
I mean, yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah, because you're not mentally prepared. When you're getting ready to go into your bye week, I mean, if you're married or have a girlfriend or something, they usually have stuff planned to do. And I understand that you're a football player, all that. I get all of that. But you have those bye weeks scheduled so that that's your mental getaway from the game. And to have it just thrown upon you like that, yeah, that was pretty bad.
It's pretty wild. The one thing that, you're starting to hear all the news, and I'm sure you know, in case you've been living under a rock, we have a new president. And also this morning there was an announcement on a potential COVID vaccine. And it's encouraging. And I'm not saying it's over. The whole thing's is far from over. But it looks like it's going in the right direction. And I don't know if it can affect this NFL season, but I do think it can help the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and all the other sports that are going on. What's your thought on just the idea that for sports to proceed the way people want them to proceed, we need this vaccine, and to do it hodgepodge isn't the right way to do it?
Yeah, it's not. And I think that, that's great, but it's still going to take time to administer the vaccine. It's still going to take time to get it to people. So we're still going to be living, in a sense, the kind of the way that we're doing now. We're still going to be social distancing. We're probably still going to be wearing masks at social events or at sporting events. So even though we do have the potential to have a vaccine right now, we're still going to be living the life that we're living for a little while longer.
Yeah, it just seems like, you know, we can't get that far out, and there's all kinds of people want to ask you questions. So I'm going to read some of their questions in just a second. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 8-0. I don't know how many people thought that. Ben Roethlisberger looks older than he ever has been. Drew Brees went from despair over the summer, and now suddenly New Orleans likes him again, and I think that's
the history of his demise was greatly exaggerated. And I was one of those guys. But you know, Seth, as a quarterbacks, they fall off the cliff quickly, just like running backs do the same thing. It's one of those things, man, where Drew Brees, when you look at his stats as far as passing is concerned, hasn't really thrown the ball down the field a whole lot, but he's still a good quarterback, man. He's still a good quarterback. And he proved it yesterday. He
did. And, you know, the one thing about Drew Brees is I think he has genuine remorse. I don't think it's fake remorse. Like, he really feels badly about what happened over the summer. And I think that he's done, you know, from what I've read, and again, I don't live in New Orleans, but from what I've read is he's tried to have as much outreach and talk to his teammates, and he's done a lot. Again, I'm not... There's only one way to look at this, and then it's just to say, you know, I think that he realizes what he said at the time was tone deaf, and I think Drew Brees found himself in a situation where that's not what he wants to be known for.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at it like, you know, he feels the way he feels. I mean, and that's fine. I mean, you're entitled in America to have an opinion, and if it's different than mine, that's fine. It's just the way I think for a lot of people, it was the way that he said it, because it was one-sided. And, you know, a lot of times when people have opinions about things, that's because we don't see the other side of anything. We just see it our way. And I think for the main part, that's what Drew was seeing. He was seeing it from his perspective and his perspective only. And sometimes when you get like that, it makes it hard to see what somebody else is going through. Like I said, he said what he said. He atoned for it, and he's moved on from it. But that's how we honestly feel.
Well, and I get it. I get it. You know, the one thing that you have to recognize is there are quarterbacks that just seem to be ageless. And we mentioned Brees, and then there's Tom Brady. Tom Brady has looked brilliant at times. He's looked old at times. What do you make of Tom Brady, and what do you think of ultimately what he can accomplish with the Bucs, whether it's this year or beyond this year?
What I think about Tom Brady, and I've said this before, and people, there's two schools with Tom Brady. There's the ones that love him unfaithfully, and they believe he can do no wrong. I am a believer that Tom Brady beat up on a sorry NFC East for a long time,
AFC.
And he benefited from that. Oh, AFC, excuse me. Yeah, you're right. I forgot. I played in both divisions. Yeah, thank you. AFCs. I think he beat up on him for a long time, and you can't take away any of his accomplishments from him. He's playing against much better defenses in the NFC South right now. You look at New Orleans defense. They tend to get after him a little bit. You look at most of the defenses that he's faced this year. Like the teams that he's lost to, the biggest deciding factor was there were defenses that were able to get after Tom Brady. I mean, that's a little bit different than what you're used to. Still a great quarterback, not taking anything away from his accomplishments or his Super Bowls or anything like that. But that's the book on him. You put pressure on Tom Brady, he can be had.
No, he could. Do you get the sense as we look at tonight's Monday night game, what's your take on Cam Newton? And what was your thought on Cam Newton when he was with Carolina and he kept getting hurt? And what's your thought on the mobile quarterback and the propensity for injury? And that's Mike Vick, that's Donovan McNabb. It's all these quarterbacks that come out and they run. And, you know, you see quarterbacks now, they're telling Sam Darnold to slide, and Patrick Mahomes, don't you dare run, and Russell Wilson, stop running. Like, what's your take on the mobile quarterback and what a great weapon that might be, but he gets hurt all the time?
I think that it's great to be a mobile quarterback, but my philosophy is this, is that you still have to be able to win from the pocket. You still have to be able to be productive from the pocket. And that's the one thing that I when I use it as an example, I use Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has the ability to run. Russell Wilson has the ability to run. And by the way, Russell Wilson, between the two, is the better slider because I guess it's the baseball background. But you still have to be able to win the game from the pocket. You still have to be able to deliver the football from the pocket and not get hurt. Those two guys, to me, they use their legs when they have to, not as not their first choice, but their absolute second choice. And when they do, that's when it hurts the defense because as a defender, as a former defender, as long as it's in the back of your mind that this guy can take off and run, you're going to play him a little different because you know that they can hurt you with their legs. But if your primary weapon is going to be your ability to scramble and things like that, that's when you tend to get hurt. Because once you get outside that tackle box for a defender, my job, whether I hate to say it to a lot of people who, feel like football is already a violent sport, but my job is to take your head off and make you pay for scrambling around trying to run for that first down.
Have I ever told you my Patrick Mahomes story?
No, you didn't tell me.
Oh, my God. This is so stupid. So there's a rumor. I don't remember it, so it's a rumor in my head because I don't remember it. But supposedly I played catch with Patrick Mahomes when Patrick Mahomes was like 4 or 5 years old.
Uh-huh.
In spring training 2002, Pat Mahomes, his dad, his baseball career had just ended, and his best friends are two of my dearest friends in baseball, LaTroy Hawkins and Torrey Hunter, two of my closest friends in the game of baseball. And we were down. I was with MLB, and we came down to spring training. Like we'd go to all the camps, and we would go to spring training. And it was a Sunday morning, and Pat Mahomes came with young Patrick. And according to reports, and this is LaTroy Hawkins' words, not mine, he had a fuzzy ball, like a Nerf kind of ball, and he threw it overhand. He threw it to me, and I caught it, and I threw it back at him, not knowing that was Pat Mahomes' kid, and not knowing that kid had any kind of talent whatsoever. But I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, that I played catch with Patrick Mahomes.
Congratulations.
Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything, but wow, and when he won Super Bowl MVP, that was a fun thing to tweet. I played catch with the Super Bowl MVP. That's all I got to say.
You should have tweeted and said, I knew he was going to be great way back when. That's what you should have said.
No, I keep saying to LaTroy, every time he has a big win, I text LaTroy and I just go, can he come on my podcast now? Can he come on my podcast now? Can he come on my podcast now? So, because I want to hear that story. Because if I don't remember it, and I was an adult, he doesn't remember it, and there's no secret.
Oh, yeah.
There's no secret about that. Let me ask you about a couple other stories that are going on. What about, first of all, in Atlanta, they had the coaching change, and now suddenly there's life with the Falcons. What about this idea that a mid-season coaching change in the NFL? What's your theory on that? I'm usually not a fan of it, and I'm surprised that we're at week 9 and Adam Gase hasn't been fired, but I think it's because, for every reason, they don't like Greg Williams that much anymore, and with COVID, they don't want somebody coming in.
The Jets situation, that just scratches my head for a team that could be that bad with so many different head coaches for that long. I don't even know what to say, and I'm a former Jet. I don't even know what to say. The Jets drafted me. I don't even know what to say. As far as Coach Morris is concerned, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, I got to say. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Morris. Jeff Ulbrich is the defensive coordinator now. And, it's weird to me that these two guys were under Coach Quinn, and for whatever reason, the message was not being relayed to the players. Now, all of a sudden, it is. And I think that's part of the way that Coach Morris has approached this season. I think he's a little bit more seasoned. He used to be a head coach in Tampa. I think he's learned from the mistakes that he's made. And I think the message has been tweaked just a little bit. But it's still astounding to me when you have somebody that was in your building that helped turn it around last year, when you talk about taking over for the defense, is able to come in and now seemingly put you on the right track. I mean, to me, that's fascinating. And I wish the Falcons all the best. I wish Coach Morris all the best. I can't really answer that, Seth, to be totally honest with you.
I get it.
It's just one of those things that's just hard to explain.
And everybody when Dan Quinn got fired, everybody in the media, Jay Busby from Yahoo, I read a column he wrote, and what a nice guy Dan Quinn is. And everybody, John Kincaid, I saw him on Twitter, and he was talking about, all these people were talking about how great Dan Quinn is, and I'm not saying that. And nobody's saying that about Adam Gase, and he still has the job, and nobody understands.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, and some of the things that he's done, and some of the things that the players have said, it's a weird thing. It's one of those things where I guess it's the organizational, where some organizations feel that they don't want to disrupt the team during the course of the season, but hell, they haven't won a game yet. So how much disruption are you going to have? If anything, you would want some change to see if you can't actually win a game.
Well, I heard the story.
They might win tonight. Who knows?
They better not. I got 20 on the Patriots. I live in New Jersey. It's legal. It's okay. The idea, the one story about the Jets that I found wild was that Cagnon wanted to hire Matt Rule, but ownership insisted on Greg Williams. And Matt Rule said, I'm not coming in unless I can pick my coaching staff. And Matt Rule is having all kinds of success in Carolina, and that's why Adam Gase got the job, is because Adam Gase said, I don't care who my defensive coordinator is. I don't even know the defense, and I don't care about the defense. And Jamal Adams basically attributed that on his way out the door. So the reality of it is that the Jets passed on Matt Rule because of allegiance to Greg Williams. And I know we're doing a national show, and I know everybody's, the Jets. Why are you talking about the Jets? I think that's a fascinating story. Matt Rule was the guy, not Mike McCarthy like the media was writing. Matt Rule, and you've seen what he's done in Carolina, and everybody loves him there.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, Matt Rule brought in his own quarterback. He would have inherited Sam Darnold, and who knows if Sam Darnold would have been able to run the offense that he wanted to run. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I don't know.
I get it.
But my thing is this: if you're a franchise and you're trying to get your team on the right track, I think you should do it like Mr. Blank is doing, Arthur Blank is doing it here in Atlanta. Fire the coach, fire the GM. Let the GM pick the coach. Let them at least be in lockstep with one another. So in that way, in turn, the coach gets to hire his own staff and have people that he's comfortable with. Because a good leader is only as good as his generals. And if you're not familiar with what they're trying to run and things of that nature, then what's the point? I mean, you're out there, you don't know what kind of defense he's running, you don't know what his philosophy is. It might not jive with your philosophy. You just want the head coaching job. To me, that's ridiculous.
I asked this question of a friend of mine this morning, and I thought of you because I wanted to ask this. So Kyle Allen is the quarterback for Washington, and Alex Smith, who had 18 leg surgeries. 18 leg surgeries to come on the field, and he's standing on the sideline, and he watches this gruesome break of an ankle on Kyle Allen. What's going through Alex Smith's mind as he's walking onto the football field with 18 surgeries after seeing Kyle Allen get carted off? I'm sorry. You're a human being. That's all I'm saying. You're a human being. Part of him has got to be like, what the hell am I doing?
No, probably part of him is like, I don't ever want to go through that again. His leg, man. When you look at his leg, I saw the documentary.
You've seen it?
By the way,
I haven't looked.
Yeah.
I've seen the links and I won't click on it.
And man, listen, it's fascinating to me. Number one, the will that he had to come back and play, the willingness to come back and play, all of that, man, because his leg looked a mess, and the people that saved it, hats off to them. Because they had to rebuild his shin. They had to rebuild that whole muscle. God. And man, for him to be able to play, I mean, I commend him for that. That is tough. That's a tough injury to come back from.
It's amazing. And I was doing a sports report this morning, and I neglected to mention the part that he had thrown 3 interceptions. And all I was thinking was, isn't this great? He threw a touchdown. Alex Smith threw a touchdown. They're like, yeah, he threw 3 picks too. And I go, that's not the part of it that I'm interested in. He's walking and he threw a touchdown.
And he's playing in the NFL after that injury. That's the biggest thing.
That's right.
And then you think about it, the human body is like amazing. When you think about some of the injuries that it sustains and some of the injuries that you see other people get hit and they don't sustain injuries, I just think that all of that is fascinating. And
then did you see when Kyle Allen got hurt, did you see Joe Theismann go on Twitter?
I didn't see that. What did Joe say? Because Joe is like the first. Joe is like, isn't he like the first person that we seen like get hurt on national TV? Like,
I had to do a paper when I was in college. I had to do a paper on the ethics of ABC showing that injury. I was taking an ethics class, and I had to write a paper on the ethics behind showing that injury. And it's so funny because nowadays they would show all that stuff. They literally wouldn't turn away. But back then they didn't want Theismann shown, and he wrote something on Twitter, and it was just very sharp. He goes, "What is it with Washington quarterbacks and their legs?"
Yeah, man, it's tough. That's tough. That is definitely tough.
That was crazy. Before I let you go, and I wanted to just give you an open floor. This morning, yesterday, it just feels like the world just feels like there's hope. I'm not saying everything's solved, and I'm not saying that he's going to do it. I don't know that Biden's going to do a great job. I'm not a big Biden guy, but it just feels like there's a big exhale, and everybody just wants hope. And you combo that with the story about Pfizer being very successful with their vaccine and sports, and everybody's looking at it. And I just wanted to I have an open-ended question. I don't have a question, but just to say,
I know what you're saying.
It just seems like there's hope for the future for the first time in a while.
You know what? I'll say this, and I know that without using names, we're going to be ambiguous a little bit. And I know that it wasn't all of 45's fault, the way that things went. He was kind of like the catalyst to make everything like it was.
He was fueling it. He was fueling it.
Yeah, he was the fuel. Thank you. He was the fuel. But now it just feels like, we can turn a corner a little bit. There's still a lot of work to be done. No question about that. And I am not, thinking for any minute that is not the case. But it just feels like we have a chance now. As Americans, it just feels like we have a chance. We've been through the worst of it with the COVID and everything. And it just feels like right now, and there has been open dialogue. Like the one thing that I can say over the last couple of years is that we've seen our ugly side. It's like being married, and you've seen you went through the tough years of the marriage, and now it's time. Everything's out on the table. Now it's time to talk about it.
Now
it's time to talk about everything. So that's how I kind of look at it. It's time. It's out there now. Everything is out there. So now it's out there on the table, and now it's time to talk about it.
Well, it's great. It's great, and I knew you have great passion for where we are as a society, as well as for the sports that you work and the radio show that you do. And I got that sense when I woke up yesterday and I woke up today. And like I said, not everything's over, and I'm not an apologist for one side or the other. I'm very in the middle, but I just want to feel like we can get out of this malaise and just feel better about it.
So Seth, you were a little tight last week, like Monday and Tuesday. You was a little tight during the week when everything was still being up in the air, being juggled around.
Ton asked me the same question, and here's what I thought. I didn't know who to believe because everybody had an agenda on the media. Everybody had an agenda, and if you believed that, hey, when the mail-in got counted, that's when more people would vote, and it like 75% voted for Biden if you did it by mail, and if you did it in person, it was Trump, and everybody was fine. But I didn't know who to believe. I didn't know to believe CNN or NBC or Fox or this or that, and I couldn't get a vibe for it, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
I remember 2016, and I wasn't a massive Hillary person, but I didn't think there was a chance in hell he could win in 2016.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and I didn't know who to believe then either. So it really was just a wild week. It really was fascinating.
Do you know what the most unfortunate thing throughout this whole process is now? Because think about when we were younger, how we went to the news for the truth.
I know.
We don't know who to believe now.
I don't know.
Like, we're at a point now where it really feels like you're left to like make your own decision about everything, because you don't know who to believe. And you go to Twitter, and at one point Twitter felt like it was a place where you could go and figure out the news and everything. But there's so much stuff out there, man, that is not true. It's hard to trust anybody nowadays. That's the biggest thing. You don't have any trust for anything.
No, it's not. And I just, from a sports standpoint, like I said, I just hope that the folks in sports just have hope. That's all I'm asking. I don't know what baseball's going to do, and I don't know what the NBA is going to do, and I don't know what hockey's going to do, and I don't even know what the NFL's going to do. But all I know is I have hope that we're going to get some semblance of normalcy, and that's just what I want. That's just...
We're going to make it. That's all you got to do. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. We made it this far. We're going to be okay.
Hugh, thank you so much for doing this. As always, it's great to talk to you, and thanks as always for coming on the show. And like I said, just continued success down there. You guys got a lot going on in Georgia, both in sports. You got the Masters this weekend, and then you got this runoff that's just going to decide the fate of Congress. So, nothing's going on in Georgia.
Not at all.
You're right in the heart of everything.
Listen, if my phone wasn't hot from all the people asking me to vote for the last couple of weeks, it's really going to be hot in the next couple of months.
Andrew.
My phone going to be on fire.
Andrew, by the way, says, great to see and hear Hugh. He number 53, and you've been getting all kinds of praise in the chat room. So on both on the Twitch Sports and
shout out to all the Twitch people, because I'm getting ready at 7:00. You know what the Destiny is? That's when they're having their live event. I play Destiny, Seth. Destiny, the season Beyond Light starts tomorrow.
Okay.
So shout out to all my Destiny players out there. Everybody that plays Destiny, it's going down tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So there we go. See? How about that? We just plugged something. There you go. All right, man. It's great to talk to you.
Hey, great to talk to you, too.
I'll see you.
See you later.
Hugh Douglas, ladies and gentlemen, and he does a great job, and he's on the radio down there in Arizona, and he does a fantastic job, and we've got, like I said, a ho-hum Monday night game, but like I said, in the NFL, there's a lot there. There's definitely a lot there, and I'm going to find out Hugh's stream. I was texting him as soon as he did that. I gotta ask him, what is your Twitch stream? So we can plug it in the chat room. Absolutely, we can do that. All right, we got a couple of minutes. I want to take questions from you folks. What do you guys have on your mind? We can talk about whatever you guys want. We can take questions from Twitch Sports, and shout out to all the Destiny players in chat. That's he was so excited. He was absolutely so excited to do that. And we're going to get people to do live games. We're going to do live play-by-play. He said the channel is not his, so he doesn't know. I don't know. I can't help him that much. There's always limits for how much I can plug a guy. That's all I can tell you. That's what I can think. But he brought up some interesting points. Very interesting to see New Orleans and how much people suddenly forgive Drew Brees, or they don't, but they're cheering for him nonetheless, and they were calling for his head. And what he did, like I said, I'm not excusing it by any stretch. I thought it was tone deaf what he did. He didn't have a stand on everything that's going on. But I wasn't going to vilify the guy for doing that. And one of the things that I think that we'll get, at least from my perspective, is I want people to understand and educate themselves, and I think that's how you do it. And as far as sports athletes and sports in general using their platform, I have no problem with it. And I didn't like when people were upset about protests, because you gotta let athletes use their platforms for whatever they want. They're human beings. They're people too. And if they have these social media followings, What's the point of having them if you can't use them to do something that you believe in? As long as you do it honestly and openly, I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. And it's weird to be talking about these older quarterbacks. I mean, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, by the way, looks old. Caleb says, what games are you looking at streaming on this channel in the future? Well, NBA 2K. That's what I do. I'm pretty good at it. I'm on season 37, but one of the things that I've figured out how to do, I figured out how to get it onto here. And now that I can, I want to be able to do it where I'm playing that game and doing a talk show at the same time. That's my goal. I've learned Among Us, but from a bad teacher. My 12-year-old is not a good teacher, so I need somebody to teach me Among Us. I'm all for it. I liked it. It was fun, but I need to understand how to do everything and what the goals are and how to play and all those things. Juan writes, do you see Atlanta hosting the All-Star game next summer? I don't know. I think that Atlanta, I think if there's going to be an All-Star game, that means we've made so much progress. And if I were to tell you that, tell me where the vaccine's at. Tell me where the virus is at. Tell me if we're having these spikes like we're having all over the place. That's part of it. Caleb says, I can teach you Among Us. All right. Great. I will learn Among Us. I have it downloaded. Here, I have it. I did it. Where is it? There it is. Among Us. That's Spider-Man 2099. There you go. I told on myself right there. Andrew says, I'm no fan of Drew Brees. I 100% believe we learn from our mistakes. My opinion is Drew learned something from his misstep this summer. My sense is his remorse is genuine. Yeah, I get that sense too. I get that sense too. I just, when a person does something that they regret and they instantly regret it, you can tell when it's sincere or not. And I have no problem saying that Drew Brees, I didn't like the way they vilified him. I'm not condoning what he did, but people were so mad at him, and they forgot all the things that he did for New Orleans in the wake of the hurricanes, both the hurricanes this year and, of course, Katrina, and everything that was happening in New Orleans, and what a leader Drew Brees was then, and he didn't have to be. And how could a guy that's that ignorant be, how can a guy that ignorant be, callous about the whole thing? He wasn't. He was remorseful. Chewy says, let's all play Among Us. All right, that's a deal. I'll set it up. We can go on my Twitter page. Tell me who wants to go in. At Seth_Everett. It's at the top of the screen. Oh, look at that. It's at the top of the screen. And we'll do it. I'm not setting it up, but I'll join somebody and I'll stream it. And we'll go live on this channel. That will do it. And if you want in on the Among Us, you got to follow the channel. And if you follow the channel, we'll get you notified, and then you'll find out. And when we put a show out that's Among Us, we'll set it up. I'm in. I'll learn. I'm a tech nerd. I like playing games like this. I love playing video games. The other thing I was thinking of putting on this screen, because we played. No, we're not doing it right now. When I played a day's worth of video games to record these, and I learned how to do it. And once I learned how to do it, then it got good, because then I was able to set the whole thing up, and I got it to work, and that was fascinating. Now that I know that's big step one, and we have to get up to step 2 and step 3 and step 4, and I'll figure it out. But that's how this is gonna go. In case you're joining us late and you missed some of the conversation from earlier today, Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence is ready to return to practice. He said he expects to return to practice this week. But on the subject of his NFL future, Lawrence said he's trying to leave his options open. Lawrence said, I'm just trying to enjoy my last few months here, if that's what I decide to do. I'm just trying to enjoy it, and obviously I'm not trying to make a stir. I don't want any more people talking about me than they already are. So my thing is, I'm just never going to corner myself to where I have to do something because of something I said in the past. You know, I always will be a person who suggests, this is the quote, I will always be a person who suggests go pro if you have the opportunity. I mean, that's always been the way I have suggested this. Trevor Lawrence is in a weird situation. He hasn't indicated for a second that he won't go to wherever he's drafted. You know, there was all that talk about last year before Cincinnati, and you know, this idea that quarterbacks will just to just say they're not showing up. You know, Eli Manning did it, and John Elway did it, and those are two Hall of Famers. John Elway threatened to play baseball because he didn't want to play for the Colts, and I remember that. I remember I didn't cover that. I was too young, but I remember that. And then Eli Manning, and I remember he didn't want to be on the Chargers, and he orchestrated the trade for Phillip Rivers, and they made that trade, and he found out. And he won 2 Super Bowls. And Phillip Rivers had a great career as well, and now he's doing remarkably, still in the league, and he's been really good in the in Indianapolis. I've been very impressed. There have been some veteran quarterbacks that have just continued to be great, and I know there's all this talk about Kyler Murray in Arizona and Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. I'm ready for the next generation of quarterbacks, but the old guard is not ready to give it up, and that's been making the NFL, I think, more compelling in that you're seeing a lot of people that had been written off, and they are just continuing and continuing and continuing and continuing, and it's been fascinating. I've enjoyed it. You know, it's funny, for the first 8 weeks, I covered the Jets, and I didn't. November 1st, I left, and so this last 8 days, I've watched more football because I haven't had to write, and it's been great. Chewy says, Tua, Burrow, Murray. Is it time for the Niners to move on from Jimmy? That's been a tough one. Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, first of all, this whole season has been a mishmash, and they've had such brutal injuries. I don't know. I think the Niners are in a weird situation because the Niners are. I haven't looked at the standings, but the one thing that you look at with regard to that division where all the teams have a shot at the playoffs, and if the Niners move on from Garoppolo, I don't know. I still like him. And I know the Patriots would pounce on him in a heartbeat. Belichick loves him. I mean, that's definitely one thing. Andrews says, in other news, Friday, my 3rd blood donation since relocating late last spring. My first double red blood cell donation. Good for you, man. Well, you're making us all feel bad. I was physically exhausted, but they can get 2 pints of blood from the donation. Continue to be negative on the COVID antibodies. Wow. That's wild. I was supposed to get tested. I'm supposed to get tested in 6 minutes. As soon as this show is over, I have to run because I'm going to get tested. And who knows? Who knows? I don't think I have it, but we're taking no chances. We had a family member have open heart surgery, and they are in recovery, and they are ridiculously high risk now. And we're not going to visit them unless we know 100% that we don't have it. And I don't think we have it. We've been very safe, and we don't stay home constantly. I mean, I'm leaving soon to go get my COVID test, and I think you get it back in 3 days, and it's fine. Hey, I've done them. I think I've been tested now this will be my 3rd time, and I have, but the spikes are everywhere. And I don't understand what's going on because it seems like everybody's forgotten about it. And I don't know if it's because the media stopped talking about it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like it's everywhere. And all these places that were in such good position are suddenly not. And it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. But listen, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I did put a bet on tonight's game. I put a bet on tonight's Patriots Jets game. I took the Patriots minus the 9.5. And I did. I don't know. I'd be shocked if they I'd be shocked if they can't cover that spread. They'll win by 10 points at least. Come on. Final score is going to be like 31-14. That'll be rough. The COVID tests are annoying. Yes, they are. Yes, the COVID tests are. Stream your COVID test? No. No. I'm not streaming my COVID test. Nope. It stinks. It's not fun. But it was, you know, I don't know. As long as the test exists and everybody can do it, I'm all for it. That's how I feel. I mean, at least my perspective on that. It's kind of weird because outside of the NFL and college football, there is nothing else going on. It's very, very strange to say that. There is literally nothing else that is going on in sports because all the other sports are are just in an up in the air situation. The NBA came out this weekend. They said that the players and owners agreed that December 22nd works for them. They're going to try to play a full season and in their arenas, not in a bubble. And okay, it's a good try. But I don't know how you're pulling it off. Hockey's been less committed. They talked about January, but then they said that everything's open. And I talked to one NHL team, and they were just like, we don't know. they don't know. And so no one's going to go on the record because they don't know. And then there's baseball, and they're headed for Armageddon. Baseball's going to shut itself down because baseball, the players today, and there's a great article, and let me see if I can get the link real fast. The players today, Tony Clark met with Sportico, and he came out and said they're planning on a full 162 games, and they're planning on all of this, and a full 162 games, a full spring training, and doing the whole thing. And I don't think baseball thinks that's happening. Not as long as certain teams are going to have no fans and that lost revenue. They say they lost $8 billion. They're not playing. But check out that article. I put it in my chat room. So if you're watching on Twitch Sports here, I can put it on the Twitch Sports chat room as well. But that's what they say. Do me a favor. We do these shows sporadically through the week. You can come check us out. We're going to apparently be doing all kinds of video games and all that other stuff as well. And we'll be doing that with all of you. And let me know on Twitter what you want to see. We're going to have a good time. Don't forget to check out my podcasts. Sports with Friends comes out on Wednesdays. Hall of Justice comes out on Thursdays. And we do all kinds of fun things on there. And anytime I go on somewhere, if I'm doing something streaming or some kind of fun thing on the internet, I try to I try to tweet it and give them the plug, and I go on radio shows all over the country, and I try to do it as much as possible. But enjoy the Monday Night Football game. Don't forget on Twitch Sports, if you're watching on Twitch Sports, make sure you check out my guys, Miller and Moulton. They are the best. They are as good as they come. Miller and Moulton are fantastic, and you know the one thing that you have to look at from those guys, they do this radio show, and they have such a great time. And you can tell. You can just feel that they are having such a great time. And can we just give one note on how great I'm doing on NBA 2K? I mean, can we just say that? I think I've done very, very well. And, you know, for a video game person, I think there's definitely something to be said for that. My name is Seth Everett. Thank you so much for watching. And check out the